Very good morning. You're watching Newsx and I'm Shivani Singh. In a major breakthrough in bilateral economic ties, the United States and India have announced a trade deal following a phone conversation between US President Donald Trump and Prime Minister Narendra Modi. President Trump announced on Monday that the US will immediately slash tariffs on Indian goods from 50% to 18%. This includes removing a 25% punitive tariff previously imposed over India's purchases of Russian oil, alongside reducing the base reciprocal tariff from 25 to 18%. In exchange, Trump has stated that India has agreed to halt or significantly reduce purchases of Indian oil, shift to sourcing more energy from the United States and potentially Venezuela, and lower its own tariffs and non-tariff barriers on US goods to zero. The Indian Commerce Minister Piyush Goyal has emphasized that sensitive sectors like agriculture and dairy remain protected and excluded from concessions, with details of the agreement to be made public very soon. To discuss this further, we are joined by TV Mohandas Pai, who is the chairman of Aaron Capital. Thank you so much, sir, for joining us this morning on Newsx. We appreciate your time. So when we're looking at this entire trade deal, the first question obviously that arises is, while we wait for the details, what, as per your understanding, will be the immediate impact of the deal? Because we saw the markets opening up in green as soon as the announcement was made, and the markets had seen quite a turbulent time over the past week. But what, as per your understanding, is the immediate impact?
Well, the immediate impact is that the punitive taxes are gone. So the sanction, the word sanction, is reduced for the US. So I think investors will understand that when the US will come in. We got an 18% tariff rate, which is very good. We are much lower than other emerging countries. Yes, the US president has said that for his allies, UK, which has got 10, Europe, which has got 15, Japan, which has got 15, there's a special rate because there is a military agreement with them, and we are just below that 18%. I think considering that all countries have to pay tariff to enter the United States, it's a pretty good deal. And as far as opening up our markets to the US, we should open up, because the US, we need high-tech equipment and high-tech technology from the US. And Indians here don't have to be scared that the US is going to dump, because the US does not have enough manufacturing capacity in goods that we buy or we make here. And giving them entry will be pretty good. It'll increase competition within India, bring in new technology, and I think it will allow us to cater to the US market. The US market is the largest market in the world. China became a very large economy by exporting to the US and Europe. Now both countries are open to us with almost zero tariff for, in the Europe and in the UK and then the US, lower tariff than other countries. So I think the immediate impact will be exports will start increasing from March. It takes time. The first quarter of next year is going to be pretty good for our US exporters.
Absolutely, sir. And also, when we look at this entire India-US trade deal, who do you think will benefit the most? Because we are talking about industries that had been, in fact, impacted by the sanctions or the tariffs that you have been mentioning. There was the textile sector, the leather goods sector, and also the marine industry, which was affected by these sanctions. So going forward, who do you think will benefit the most? Which industry?
I think the labor-intensive industry like textile, garments, like marine products, and smaller tools manufacturing, auto ancillaries will benefit the most, because these are all inputs for the big companies in the United States. And I think these are the ones that we have large capacity, and we were exporting. We had a market share in the US, and I think that will increase. And obviously, the US consumer is going to pay a higher price, but overall, I think the impact will not be so much. And also, we get some kind of a leverage against other countries who are our competitors in these areas, and our products going there means global prices will also increase all around. So I think these are the companies that will increase. But we have to import more oil from America. So if we import more oil from America, America increases oil production, it means oil prices will not rise. If oil prices don't rise, that has a very, very big impact on this country. Even today at $65, $67, we are having a very positive impact on India, because we used to import $200 billion of oil, export about $80 billion. So it's net $120 billion imports at about maybe $80. Now it's come down to $160 billion. So positively, we could have an impact of $20-30 billion on the balance of payment issue, which has been the bugbear for India and leading to higher costs.
In fact, sir, I'll come to the oil issue just after this question, but you also spoke of a leverage in trade. So when we are looking at India, we just concluded a FTA with the EU. Now we have the US deal. Do you think that the Indian exporters will now get preferential access in some of the world's biggest markets?
Yes, because EU, we had a tariff on EU, our garment export and our textile industries were getting decimated because of high tariffs. Bangladesh grew from almost zero to $50 billion of garment exports in the last 15-20 years. And we suffered. China grew for different reasons. But now I think it's a golden opportunity for our textile garment industry to grow. Maybe raise our overall exports to $100 billion in 2 to 3 years. We are a vertically integrated industry in India because we grow cotton and we have the entire vertical stack for exports. So I think the EU opening up will be very, very good for us. And the EU opening up at the top end of the pyramid in terms of high value auto will also lead to expansion of the market here, lower cost for the consumer, and that will lead to many of those high-end cars being manufactured here. You know that Jaguar is being manufactured in Pune by Tatas, and I think that's pretty good. And I think, if you look at what does India lack today? India lacks access to global markets at lower cost for its labor-intensive industries. Now that issue has got solved, the EU opening up and the US opening up and China's costs going up. Second, India needs access to its intermediaries and manufacturing like auto ancillaries, which we have a large industry. And who are the buyers? Largest are going to be Europe and the US, and that is opened up. And the third, India needs imports and access to high-level technology, sophisticated technology, like high-quality machine tools, like let's say robotics, and building and automation of factories, and then high-end automobiles. And now the import of that is opened up. Once the import opens up, our market grows. Our cost of that import comes down. We'll be more competitive globally. And very soon, because the market grows, they will manufacture all this in India too. Just today, I read that the Indian government is going ahead with a consortium for creating the Indian fighter jet in India. That's pretty good. And HAL is out. Yes, HAL should be kept out, because HAL has become a monopoly. They're not allowing others to come up. We need many more industries for the private sector to come, and that's beginning to happen.
Absolutely, sir. And in fact, if we can circle back to the oil equation, sir, Trump has made it very clear what he wants. He wants India to stop buying Russian oil, and he also wants $500 billion of products, of American-made products, to be purchased by India. How do you think that India can actually meet these demands? Because these seem a little unrealistic.
They're not unrealistic if you make the maths. Please understand that out of $500 billion, maybe 150, 200 will be Boeing planes that we are going to buy, right? They're going to be delivered in the next 2 to 5 years, right? And maybe we'll buy more. So it's going to be a very large quantum. Maybe we'll buy $30 to $50 billion of defense equipment. And that will be pretty good, right? That'll be maybe about $200, $250 billion. And now we import about $45 billion a year. $45 billion into 5 is $200 billion. And that may go up from 200 to 300 billion because we're going to buy more oil. The key with the US is to make sure that the trade surplus we have with the US comes down. And to do that, we have to buy more planes. We have to buy maybe more sophisticated semiconductor chips, which US companies could sell to us like GPUs. And then we have to buy maybe more sophisticated equipment from the US, where is the global leader. So I think, if you look at the entire thing and include the, aeronautical sector, buying planes, Boeing planes, which are going to buy anyway, I think the math looks decent. Because once that market opens up, a lot of things come into play, and we must make an effort to buy more. I mean, why can't you buy those Harley Davidson? Let's buy those Harley Davidson without that tariff. Right. Because President Trump keeps talking about Harley Davidson. You're charging 150%, 150%. That's a very small part of our import. Let's buy 100,000 Harley Davidson, right? What is that?
Absolutely, sir. In fact, before I let you go, how do you think India made Trump agree to this deal? Do you think it's because America had this fear of missing out? We just completed the mother of all deals with the EU, and we, in fact, our union minister came yesterday on record and stated that there are red lines that was respected. The agriculture, the dairy sector, everything was respected by the US, and we have a lot of opportunities just opening up for India.
Look, President Trump is very unique. I don't think he can be pressured by anybody in the world to do what you want. Okay, let's get away from that. President Trump will do what he wants at a time of his choosing. There is no logic. There is nothing that anybody can determine. You can't put pressure on the man. He decides. He's the global hegemon. He's the most powerful man in the world. And for all of us to sit here and say, hey, we did the EU deal, we put pressure on Trump. Yeah, maybe that is one of the things that went into decision making. See, please remember, Trump has said very clearly that he wants us to stop buying Russian oil. He believes that Russian oil buying is what is making Russia fight the Ukraine war and give resources. Now, we have reduced the buying of Russian oil. He has brought in greater sanctions. And we have said we will not buy from any sanctioned entities. That's the national policy. And Russian oil imports have come down. That is the key thing that made him say that 25% extra will be reduced, because he put 25 plus 25. Then there was a trade deal on his table, all ready to sign for the last 6 months. We'd all agreed on many things to open our markets. They have agreed. We said we're not going to open wheat, rice markets. We'll buy your almonds, and we'll buy some fruits from you. We'll buy pulses from you, which you're importing anyway. But I think, it is the table, and he decided, why keep it on the table now? Let's go forward. The Russian oil issue is getting solved. And possibly, the Ukraine-Russian war may also get solved very soon. That could be one of the inputs, primarily because Russia and Ukraine are beginning to talk. And they already had 2 or 3 levels of meeting, and the possibility of Putin and Zelensky meeting and talking in Moscow or somewhere, right? So I think all these things happening has made him do it. But remember, let's not get into the illusion that, this was the pressure, this was pressure. Yes, the EU deal was an input. And for the EU, the US pushing them around, abusing them was certainly a big input to do the deal with India. The EU is not known for doing things fast, whereas Trump does instantaneously. Trump mind works instantaneously, he does it. He works on instinct or whatever it is, where the EU is process and EU is bureaucracy, blah, blah, blah. Now the fact they accelerated. Now I want to say one small thing before we sign off. The EU deal is the mother of all deals. The US deal is the father of all deals. So we got a global mother in Ursula and a global father in President Trump. And so our Prime Minister becomes the Pitamaha. He becomes the Pitamaha who's taking care of all of us.
Absolutely. And before you go finally, sir, do you think the US deal will come into fruition before the EU deal? Because
Of course. President Trump has said, I'm going to do it instantaneously, right? Read his tweet.
Right.
Read his tweet. It's coming. See, EU has to go through legal scrubbing and all kind of stuff. Here, the agreement is done, dusted, sealed, and we both have to sign. And the tariffs is already said, I'll do it instantaneously, come into effect immediately, right?
Absolutely, sir. Thank you so much for joining us on the broadcast with that valuable